Hello, my name is Connie Long, and I'd like to welcome you to Channel 37's newest program, Cityscape, a show that focuses on the city of Concord. Today's program will launch our summer series of interviews with all 13 of Concord City Council members. You'll get a chance to hear their views on current issues facing the city and find out a bit more about the individuals who govern the city of Concord. Concord Cameo is a segment of Cityscape that will highlight a variety of city offerings, from sites of interest around the city to book reviews from the public library. Today's Concord Cameo will look at City Hall, the building that is, and its history. We begin today's edition of Cityscape with Assistant City Manager Julia Griffin, who has an update about what's going on around town.
Welcome to the first edition of City News. I'm Julia Griffin, Assistant City Manager for the City of Concord. It's time to renew your dog licenses for all of you dog owners. All dog licenses expired at the end of May, and beginning on June 1st, a $1 per month late fee is charged. You may renew your dog licenses in the City Clerk's office on the first floor of City Hall. Are you registered to vote? If you are registered, did you vote in one of the elections held in the city since 1988? If the answer is yes, you need do nothing but continue to vote. The City of Concord is about to complete the verification of voter checklists, which is required by state law. If you received a postcard from us or did not vote in an election since 1988, your name was removed from the checklist on June 15th. If you wish to have your name returned to the voters list, you may re-register in the City Clerk's office between 8 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. The Concord Public Library's summer reading program entitled Some Enchanted Reading began on June 20th and runs through August 19th. To date, over 500 children have registered in this popular program. All children may participate by being read to or by reading books themselves. It's still not too late to sign up in the children's room of either library. Children's summer craft programs are currently being offered at both the main library's children's room and the Pennacook Branch Library. Please contact the libraries for more information. The Public Library's Children's Summer Storytime program will be held at White Park and Merrill Park on Wednesdays beginning June 26th through July 31st at 10 a.m. The Pennacook Branch holds a story time at 10 a.m. on Thursdays on July 11th, 18th, and the 25th. Magical Mondays at the Children's Room feature videos of fairy tales from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. every Monday. On July 9th at 11 a.m. in the City Auditorium, all children and their caregivers are invited to the play Dominic, a children's story by William Steig, performed by Andy's Playhouse. Admission is free. Chris Lanier will exhibit photographs in the main library's art gallery in the basement of the Concord Public Library during the month of July. In response to user requests, the Concord Public Library has put together a collection of career and employment-related materials which are now housed in the reference room of the main library. The collection includes books and informational material on resume development, career changes, job openings, and a bibliography of related titles. This is the perfect resource for those of you who are job hunting or considering a career change. For those of you who make regular recreational use of the Merrimack River, live adjacent to it, or simply appreciate this vital Concord resource, 2 special public meetings will be held for all interested in learning more about the Merrimack Wild and Scenic River Study, just getting underway. The first meeting will be held in the lecture hall of the New Hampshire Technical Institute, adjacent to the Christa McAuliffe Planetarium, on Wednesday, July 10th, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. The second meeting will be held in the first floor conference room of the New Hampshire Fish and Game Department, located at 2 Hazen Drive, on Thursday, July 18th, from 7 to 9 p.m. And now for news from the Concord Recreation and Parks Department. The city pools are open and will continue to stay open through August 16th. Swimming hours are Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. and again from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. and on Saturdays and Sundays from 12:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. and again from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. The department's summer playground program began on June 24th and runs through August 16th. Supervised playground programs will run Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to noon and from 12:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. Children age 6 and older are invited to attend and may register at the individual playgrounds. The summer music series began the week of June 24th. Tuesday evening concerts featuring the Nevers Band begin at 8 p.m. in Bicentennial Square. The Thursday evening concerts, featuring a variety of musical entertainment, begin at 7 p.m. in Eagle Square. Concert schedules are available from the Recreation and Parks Department Administrative Office in Whites Park, the public libraries, and in City Hall. Local youth can still register for the second summer sessions of both swimming and youth tennis. The registration deadline for tennis is July 18th, and the deadline for swimming is July 19th. The youth golf program is still accepting registrations for children ages 7 through 13 at the Beaver Meadow Golf Course through July 17th. The very popular Just for Kids summer program features a series of different weekly activities for children entering 6th through 9th grades. Registration for each week's program is accepted up until the Friday before each week at the Recreation and Parks Department's Administrative Office in White Park. And just a reminder for those of you who have children that play soccer, registration for the fall youth soccer program ends on August 2nd. Please note the following changes to the summer indoor ice skating schedule for Everett Arena. Public skating will begin on July 8th and includes every Monday and Friday evening from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Public stick and puck will be held every Sunday from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. beginning July 7th. The Hershey State Youth Track Meet tryouts will be held beginning at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, July 2nd at Memorial Field. Youth ages 9 through 14 are eligible to participate in the event and may register at the beginning of the event. Thanks to the generous donations of many individuals and businesses, the City of Concord's 4th of July celebration will be held at Memorial Field. The event begins with a Nevers Band concert at 7:30 p.m. and will be followed by fireworks at dusk. And for you baseball fans, I'm sad to report that the city's Red Sox game tickets for the July 26th game are sold out. For further information on Recreation and Parks activities, contact the Recreation and Parks Department at 225-8690. During the summer and fall season, many of you noticed that City Public Works and Water Resources Department crews, together with several private contracting firms, are very busy around the city completing major public improvement projects. The following are a few highlights of major projects which may be of interest to you. The North State Street Booton Street Improvement Project continues to proceed on schedule, with completion anticipated for the middle of September. Expect intermittent detours throughout this corridor during the duration of the project. No work will take place on this project over the long 4th of July weekend. Work will begin in mid-July on the last phase of the major sewer and water line improvement project on Pleasant Street between South Fruit Street and Fisk Road. A contractor will complete paving of the entire stretch of roadway and will be finishing driveway entrances and sidewalks disrupted during the project, and will also be re-landscaping along the entire length of the project. This project is anticipated to take about 4 weeks. Up in Pennacook, the last phase of the sewer separation project is due to begin in early August. On July 15th, contractors will begin a 3.5-month Concord Airport improvement project, which includes repaving of a parallel taxiway and paving of apron and tie-down areas. Tree crews will be busy during the week of July 1st, trimming and thinning trees on River Road. Public Works crews will be busy replacing and improving sidewalks and curbing on sections of Valley, Forest, and South Spring Streets in early July. The city's Street Patch Patrol will be busy in the eastern end of the city during the first 2 weeks of July, and will also be applying more gravel and improving roadside drainage on Graham and Talent roads. Street sweeping efforts will focus cleaning activities in West Concord and the South End during the first 2 weeks of July. That's it for the first edition of City News. We'll be back with our next edition on July 15th. Thanks.
To begin our series of interviews with Concord City Council members, we first spoke with Mayor James Mackay. I asked Mayor Mackay to explain the two different forms of government by which a city can run.
The strong mayor form of government versus the manager city council form of government.
Okay.
And We've had both in Concord. 20 years ago, or more, we had a strong mayor form where the people elected the mayor, and that he was the chief executive officer of the city, paid full-time with a lot of authority and power. Unfortunately, the last strong mayor we had was impeached. We're one of the very few modern cities that have impeached the mayor all the way to the state Supreme Court. It held up. There was a feeling that there was a misuse of power and a number of things, but that's ancient history for us. Because of that impeachment and all the difficulties that surrounded that, there was a charter reform. Every city runs on a charter passed by the legislature, and they're all different. All 10 cities in New Hampshire have slightly different charters. So we, at that time, 20 years ago or more, changed the charter into a form of government that the administrative leader of the city from day to day is the city manager. The policy-making board is the city council, and the city council is presided over by a mayor, but with very diluted power compared to the strong mayor form. Even though in New Hampshire, historically, we are not strong on having great powers invested in either governor or mayors. That's why we have a governor and executive council. I think we're only one of 2 states that still have that form of government. And the mayor not only presides, but is really the spokesman for the city and has a lot of appointment powers. And the other power is what you can get away with, how you can use your own authority and use that in a variety of ways to kind of sell the city. So that, and at the same time, as you probably know, there's a group in Concord who are thinking about going back to the old ways, which I strongly oppose. I think this system is working. I think the large number of citizens are happy with the kind of checks and balances that are built in. But we have agreed at the city council level to put it on the ballot for this November and see if the citizens want to form a charter revision committee to look into either minor revisions to the charter or a major revision which would go back to the old way of direct election of a mayor.
Can you tell us a bit about Concord City Council?
We have a very large city council. 15 members is considered to be quite large. And uneven number is the best, so you don't get into ties. So that somewhere is in the range of 7 to 9 is more the usual process. Now, the reason we have 15 is that we have 8 wards, and we like the idea that each ward has its own ward councilor, and therefore that citizens in a given ward, wards A through H, can call their own city councilor about something in their ward and get fairly quick responses. And that's balanced off by 7 at-large councilors, which means you run, like I do, you run in every ward for election. And those are 4-year seats, so that 4 of the at-large candidates run in one municipal election, 3 the next time. And then the way we organize is that in the first meeting in January, the council elects the mayor, then elects the mayor pro tem, which is Ken McDonald, and he's been mayor pro tem for a long time now, and elects a member of the planning board and a number of other positions, and it's a very interesting election for mayor because you walk in not being sure whether or not you're going to win or lose, and their first thing is the election. If you win, you're then presiding, and on goes the meeting. There isn't any ceremony, there isn't any swearing in, there isn't any celebration, there's no big party, there's no inaugural ball. Somebody hands you the gavel and off you go. The council is organized also in a different way, and that is that all councilors are on standing committees, of which we have huge numbers of committees. And councilors are then appointed as chairman and vice chairman of those committees, so that I believe very strongly in delegating authority as much as I can, particularly to these committees, and I view my role as supportive and helpful instead of trying to dominate and control. It's not my personality to do that.
Can you highlight a few of the more interesting issues you've become involved with as a city councilor?
I suppose I'm best known for my interest in public transportation because I originally represented Ward A, which is the most rural ward where people have the most difficulty getting around. So it just seemed to me very natural that we reinstate a public system citywide. And I worked 8 to 10 years. I was chairman of that committee. I put a lot into it. We were very close. I thought we had it several years ago. And Charlie Vigliano, who's since died, was a member of the council. He was sick in the hospital at that particular night. He came down by ambulance, came into the meeting, cast the vote that killed it that night. And Charlie and I always remained friends. Well, when I became mayor, it was interesting because he was the deciding vote the other way. He was the vote that put it into operation. And so that is exciting for me, and I think it's beginning to work, even though it's still controversial and discussed a great deal. So that, I suppose that stands out in my mind strongly. The Public Works facility that's up there, which I'm very proud of. I voted against it. I was totally against that site. And myself and John Sullivan, who was the councilor in that ward, were very, very adamant that it not be there. So it's kind of interesting when I had to preside over the opening ceremony of that building, and remembering that I was against it, but there it is. And in fact, I drove a huge road grader as big as this auditorium to cut the original blue ribbon. It was kind of a fun thing.
What do you think Concord's hot issues of the future will be?
The hottest issue of the future that I see is the issue about the way in which the land abutting the river is zoned, and what kind of development will emerge close to that river. The river is a major asset. Not too long ago it was totally polluted and a total mess. It's very, very clean now. It's a Class A or Class B river. There is going to be some major work done by the State Fish and Game Commission down around Sewell's Falls, where there'll be a park adjoining the river with some very interesting access in. There are development forces that are interested in what kind of development might be appropriate along the river, and conservation interests that say that nothing ever should be developed along there. And we have the Scenic River federal studies going on at this point in terms of the ways in which the banks of the river might be developed or might not be. So that I see as a major issue. The never-ending problem we have is property tax. And the difficulty that we have, which is very unique, is that somewhere around 1/3 of all the lands and buildings in the city of Concord cannot be taxed. That's a tremendous burden for any city, and it's automatically why our property taxes are high. Because not only are we the state capital, with all of the capital buildings, but we also house the state prison and the state hospital, New Hampshire Hospital. We're also the county seat. We have St. Paul's School, and we have practically every religious denomination, I think, with the exception of the Catholic Church, have their headquarters here. So that makes it a difficult issue.
What are some of your thoughts as to the city's 1992 budget, given the current fiscal constraints the city is faced with?
This year's budget is $1 million less than last year's. There's probably going to be less revenue coming in from any jurisdiction above us next year. We have individuals and businesses and big businesses who are having difficulty paying their property tax, which means that once again there are going to have to be cuts. We're in a position now where I think across-the-board cuts are probably going to be very difficult, like a reduction of 5%, 10% in the budget. That's almost always people. So that what we're facing, and which is a very painful prospect, is that we may have to be thinking about cutting out some specific area of service instead of a percentage across the board of city people or monies. We may have to be thinking about closing a community center or closing a fire station. And if you want to listen to screaming, all you got to do is say to some neighborhood, we're taking your community center away. Or we're going to take the fire station out of the Heights. Mm-hmm. You know, and if I lived in the Heights, I would be up there screaming louder than anybody. But that's the frightening prospect that we're in, or raising property taxes by increasing costs. And then, you know, we're really in danger of losing some of the middle-class people in Concord, wealthy people, not so hit by property taxes, and the poorest people are not troubled so much by that. It's the middle class and lower middle class who are finding it extremely difficult to pay the taxes and stay here. And that's a matter of great concern.
What have you most enjoyed being involved with as a city councilor?
I like the idea of a city large enough that you can, as individual and a council, can have a major impact. You can really have a picture in your own mind of the way the city ought to be developing, and you can have a major impact because of it. Thank God there are checks and balances all across the board, so that somebody's grandiose images, you know, for the future are tempered by reasonable approaches on the part of a number of people. But I've always been impressed with how much of an impact you can have. I like that part of it, because the government is so huge now in other jurisdictions that, you know, you have the sense you can't have any impact at all.
Mayor James Mackay, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Elizabeth Hengen, and I'm president of Heritage Concord. I'm very pleased to be on today's show, Concord Cameo. I'm standing here in front of Concord City Hall, which is really the focal point of all of Concord's citywide activities. The building that's here right today was built in 1902, but it's not Concord's first City Hall. The first City Hall stands now where the Concord Merrimack Courthouse is, just on North Main Street. And actually that building was built as both a courthouse and City Hall in 1857. Now, Concord was chartered as a city in 1853, a few years prior to the erection of the first City Hall. And for the prior many years, it had made do with a very small frame building. But with the construction of this monumental brick building in the heart of downtown in 1902, it really set the tone for the prominence that city government was to play both within the city and also as the capital city within the state of New Hampshire. The building here sits in the heart of a civic district that embraces both city and state buildings. And one thing that one notices immediately, as it's surrounded by the State Library, the Annex, the State House, the Concord Public Library, and this is the only building that's not built of granite. All of the other buildings in the district were built of local granite. Concord granite quarrying was a major industry here in Concord. When this building was built in 1902, there was talk of making it out of granite, but the cost of the granite, ironically, was so high that there was a big protest, and in fact a group of prominent citizens took the city to court to protest the high cost of construction, and therefore this building was built out of brick instead. Nevertheless, it's a handsome structure, very classical in its origins, and it's a fitting symbol to Concord as the capital city.
Next, we spoke with Kenneth McDonald, who is a city councilor at large and also mayor pro tem. Mr. McDonald began by explaining his title and role as mayor pro tem.
Mayor pro tem, as the word tem indicates, is a temporary mayor in case the mayor is absent for ceremonial duties, ribbon cutting, groundbreakings, or even to run the meeting if the mayor is not available.
Great. Can you tell us a bit about why you decided to run for the Concord City Council?
Well, I got involved in city politics through the avenues of the Personnel Advisory Board, being appointed by the then city manager, John Henchy. I got a little taste of how the government runs, and I decided, well, I'll give this a whirl and see if I can get elected, which I didn't the first time out back in 1969. It's a long while ago. I got beat badly, but I decided, well, I'll run again, and I won, and I've been winning ever since. I've never been defeated. I ran 3 terms as a ward councilor, and since then I've been councilor at large, which embraces the whole city. I was advised when I jumped from the ward to the whole city to be awful careful because it's different out there when you're citywide, but I did real well, finished second. So since then it's been a piece of cake.
What do you think Concord's hot issues of the future will be?
This year there'll be openings for 8 ward councilors, 3 at-large councilors, plus 2 unexpired terms of people who have resigned, namely Elizabeth Hager and Dennis Brown. So you're talking about 13 vacancies in November this year, plus the charter change. The charter change question came about by individuals in Concord who were desirous of changing really the form of government that we have in the city of Concord, from city manager to strong mayor. So they went out and solicited signatures. The total amount was accurate, but the city officials said they did it not in a legal manner. But the council in its wisdom decided to go along with it anyway because of the amount of signatures that were involved. The Charter Commission would look into questions such as should we have a city manager or should we have a strong mayor plan? If we do have a city manager, should we limit his term, 5-year contract? Should we limit his authority to hire and fire department heads without consulting the city council? And things like that. The interesting part is we've heard so much pro and con about the present type of government that I think it myself that it's healthy that's going on the ballot, and let the people of the city of Concord decide, do they want to continue the way they are? Are they satisfied? Or are they desirous of a change? The Charter Commission, 6 people will be elected by the people, and then they begin their duties and their charges to bring recommendations before the voters for the November 1992 election. It'll be a very interesting process. As I say, what I like about it is it'll remove all the doubt that does exist or does not exist in the city of Concord as to are we happy with the city manager form of government.
What are some of your thoughts as to the city's 1992 budget, given the current fiscal constraints the city is faced with?
I think that we have probably a tough year ahead of us, probably tougher than the previous year of 91. A lot of our assumptions on how tough the budget will be depends upon what the state comes up with their budget plan, and they're in the process now of hopefully finalizing it in the next few days, or especially by July 1st. When we determine how much money we're going to get from aids to cities and towns and etc., then we'll be able to lay out our budget. I think the city is purposely delaying talking about the budget or having any definite plans at all until that's finalized. Based upon the tax base, which is ridiculously low, I see some hard times ahead for 1992.
What do you feel the city's budget priorities should be in 1992?
Well, right now, we have a city budget of 25, 26, maybe 27 million in that area. And the police department, the fire department, Department of Public Works, and Recreation control about 15 million of that $25 million budget. That's where all the big bucks are. The priorities have to be with the police and the fire and the public works, and you do have to have recreation. So that's where the priorities are where the money is. Code enforcement also is a heavy hit, although they're self-supporting to the tune of 70%, I believe. That's where the big bucks are. Out of $25 million, those 4 departments control better than half of it.
Do you have any thoughts on how the state and city can generate additional revenue, given the increasing pressure elected officials are facing to minimize property tax increases?
Well, the only way that the cities and states can minimize property taxes is by creating some form of a broad-based tax with dedicated funding that would go towards reducing the tax rate. The problem with dedicated funding is you have people say, well, dedicated funding takes away local autonomy, local spending. You can't tell the cities and towns how to spend the money. But the only way you can really reduce the tax rate is have dedicated funding that's allocated and purposely to reduce the tax rate, not to build a new road or a new school.
Mm-hmm. From your seat as an elected official, what do you think are the best things about living in Concord, New Hampshire?
Well, Concord is a nice city. It's well kept with excellent fire department, excellent police department, and we plow the streets to keep the streets clean. The cemeteries look nice. The parks and recreation. We've probably got the best recreational facilities north of Boston, with Memorial Field, with all the lighting at night and the softball fields and the baseball fields and the track, and it's a nice layout. We have a medical rescue service that's probably as good as there is on the East Coast, with EMTs and paramedics, and excellent. There's really no price tag on something like that. Of course, I can remember when if you called the ambulance, you call the police department, and they would leave with one officer driving the ambulance, and they'd pick up another policeman down on the corner, and the two of them would answer the call, and they'd take you or me or whoever it was to the hospital, and that was it. That system was called you call, we haul. It worked, I guess, but today it's so sophisticated and good. Excellent.
What about the worst things about Concord?
The worst thing about Concord is the amount of tax-exempt property that we have. We have, as you know, many, many state buildings. The state pays us $15,000 a year for fire and police protection that we offer. And that came into being 5, 6, 7 years ago. It's never increased. It's still the same. We have 41 churches in Concord. And 2 or 3 of them, I know the Episcopalians do, and perhaps others, I got to be careful what I say, do make payments in lieu of taxes, like one-time payment. But we have tremendous amount of tax-exempt property in Concord, which is, if we could assess them for even half of their evaluation, would be a tremendous boon.
Any suggestions on how to improve Concord?
If Concord is just able to maintain the services that we now have, we'll do well without trying to improve too much. As I just alluded a few minutes ago, we have excellent parks and police and fire and public works. A library, can't forget the library. We have excellent facilities. If we can afford to maintain the services and the hours that they're open and the amount of cruisers that we have and the amount of fire trucks, we'll do well.
That's it for this edition of Cityscape. Join us again on Monday, July 15th at 7 p.m. for the next edition of Cityscape. Until then, this has been Connie Long. Thank you and goodbye.